The Democratic establishment has a new trick that they're using to distract from the recent WikiLeaks documents. And actually, you know what? I shouldn't call it a new trick because it's a recycled trick. It's a new old trick. It's a trick that the Republicans used to use, and now it's a trick that the Democrats have embraced with open arms. So, namely, what they're doing is they're taking the information in the recent WikiLeaks documents and they're wholesale dismissing it. Everything doesn't count. Don't look at that. In fact, if you look at that, you're a bad person and you're nefarious and you're suspect by default because Putin. So the Kremlin, Vladimir Putin, Russia. Do you not hear me? I keep saying Putin. It's Putin. So their argument is, well, I mean, look, where do you think those documents came from? Those documents were obviously hacked by Russia. Then Russia sent them to U.S. media organizations and to WikiLeaks. And then now they're leaking all the emails and they're trying to dig up dirt on the Clintons and trying to dig up dirt on the Democratic Party because they want to see Donald Trump win. Now, have they presented any actual evidence for this? No. Not a shred of evidence. They just keep asserting it as if it is factual, and if you say it enough, people will start going, yeah, I mean, I guess. Sure, it came from Russia. I mean, I guess that's the point. And let's dig deeper on this, because nobody tries to take it to its logical conclusion. Let's assume for a second that is true. Why would they be doing it? Like, this is just Cold War hysteria and red baiting that they're doing. But what would be the logical conclusion of, okay, let's try to destroy the Democrats to get Trump elected? Trump's rhetoric on the campaign trail has been, okay, look, I kind of want to be friends with Russia as much as possible. I mean, we have a uniting thing to be against ISIS, so maybe it makes sense to actually be friends with them, but, you know, we should be friends to the extent that we can. Now, I think Donald Trump is a buffoon, don't get me wrong, and he's an idiot, as I think he's proven time and time again. But when he says that, is he wrong? No, of course not. What reasonable person sits there in the U.S. and they're like, I can't wait to escalate with Russia to possibly World War III over Syria? No reasonable person does that. And in fact, the Democratic strategy is just sell fear on this. But what's the end goal? So if it is true that Russia is hacking the Democratic emails and giving them to WikiLeaks, well, wouldn't it be because, according to the rhetoric at least, they want to move away from war because Hillary Clinton is more hawkish in her rhetoric against Russia. Donald Trump is less hawkish, though it's weird that Pence is equally as hawkish as Hillary Clinton, his VP, so it doesn't really make much sense. But wouldn't the idea be, like, what's he going to do? Well, oh, we got Donald Trump in there. Now Russia is going to invade the United States. I'm pretty sure that's not what he's planning, if indeed this is the Russian government hacking, which again, there's no evidence of that, so, you know, who's the burden of proof on? It ain't on anybody to disprove that it's Russia. It's on people to prove that it is Russia. That's the way the burden of proof works. So even if it were true, I don't know what the Democrats are trying to pretend the end goal is of Russia. Like, okay, let's get in Donald Trump because then it's easier for us to take over the U.S. I don't know where they're going with it. And that gets to the main point, which is it really is just fear-mongering 101. It's an attempt to deflect and distract from the substance of the emails and make it so that people think, oh, I can't look at it because if I look at it, well, then I'm helping our enemies? I don't know, something like that. But again, it's the most transparent trick I've ever seen, because even if it were true what they're saying, that doesn't mean the substance of the emails is wrong. No, the substance is still there. The stories are still there. You just want to shove your head in the sand and deflect from it as much as possible, so you're doing the old, I'm hacked by Russia! You know, if they were really bright, well, this isn't bright, this is also pretty stupid, but you could have gone with the hacked by ISIS. ISIS are the people who did this because they want Donald Trump elected. There. So if you look at it, you're helping ISIS. Like, we're getting close to that level of hacky argument. Now, the main point in this story is what? it's not working. Like, the Democrats think, because who are the people who are most likely to be upset by those leaks and what it says in those leaks? The Democratic base. Because they're, shitting on Bernie Sanders left and right, calling the liberal base communist effectively when they call them the Red Army, saying, I'm not sure we're for a $15 minimum wage, so on and so forth. So the liberal base are most likely to be annoyed by what's in those leaks, and their argument to try to get the liberal base to not read the leaks is Russia hacked them. You think that argument's going to work on anybody in the liberal base? They're all going to say, but how do you answer for what's in them? If there are people who can agree, okay, yeah, you were hacked, that sucks. But still, how do you answer for what's in the emails? So it's not working on the group that it's intended to work on. The emails are most likely to piss off the liberal base, and your argument for people not to even read the leaks that, oh my God, Russia, is the least likely argument to work on the liberal base. So that leads to the inevitable sad conclusion here that there is no left party anymore. Now, let me explain. So as this is happening and the leaks are damaging Clinton further with the liberal base, the biggest newspaper in Utah just endorsed her. Now, Utah is literally the most Republican state in the country. Isn't that crazy? And the top newspaper there endorsed Hillary. That's not, that never happens ever. They never go left because they're Mormon by and large, so they're super religious, super fundamentalist. And they endorsed her. At the same time, 13 more former George Bush officials endorsed Hillary. These are two headlines I saw this morning right before I come on air. So you have all these establishment Republicans, and at this point, even just Republicans flocking to Hillary. And you have the base of the Democratic Party looking at the leaks and going, Jesus, man. So many of them, okay, they were going to hold their nose and vote for her, but more information comes out, and they're like, oh, I can in good faith, dude, look at what the fuck they say behind closed doors, look at what their positions actually are. Hillary Clinton admitting, yeah, my Syria policy is going to kill a lot of civilians in Syria, but I support a no-fly zone and safe zones. The list goes on of just insane, backwards, terrible ideas. She proves that she's centrist at best, more like center-right. So all this stuff comes out. The base is depressed, and they're like, oh, all right, many of them aren't going to vote. They're going to vote for Jill Stein, or, they're going to, I guess some vote for Gary Johnson, an even smaller percentage vote for Donald Trump. But she's bleeding millennial support, base support, as she's gaining, yes, Republican support. So you have Donald Trump, who represents this, far-right nationalist wing of the Republican Party, where they really are embracing just out-and-out bigotry and xenophobia and white nationalism. Hey, ban all Muslims from coming to the U.S., kick out all undocumented immigrants, so on and so forth. So they believe that. They're like white nationalists mixed in with a little bit of economic populism. So that's the far-right nationalist / pseudo-populist wing of the right. And then you have the centrist / center-right portion of the country that's in the Democratic Party. Now, those are the two parties, Republican and Democrat. Where the fuck are the leftists supposed to go? Again, some of them are going to hold their nose and vote for Hillary because they say, okay, well, obviously Trump is a bigger threat to the Republic. But where, all the people who actually want a party to represent non-intervention on foreign policy. We did 7 interventions under Obama, who's supposed to be a liberal Democrat. I mean, if you don't want that, where do you go? If you don't want corporate welfare for Wall Street out the wazoo every year, $80 billion, where do you go? If you want somebody to actually fight for a living wage, where do you go? If you want somebody to stand up and fight against climate change in a serious way and not the window dressing of little tweaks here and there. Where do you go? So you have this entire, group of people that are left out of the two major parties. I get it, by the way. Yes, of course, the Green Party represents those values much more. But again, what everybody needs to understand is that our system is like literally designed for two parties. So a third party option, unfortunately, is certainly not viable in the short run. And don't get me wrong, I'm voting for Jill here in New York, but in the swing state, it'd be a much more difficult thing to do because that actually is taking away a vote from the lesser of two evils and making it more likely the greater evil will win. But that's a longer conversation we don't need to get into right now. Bottom line is, actual progressives and liberals are snubbed by the two major parties. And that's a sad state of affairs. And you see the Democrats, I mean, people have been saying this for a while. Now I think it's undeniable and irrefutable that the Democratic Party is what the Republican Party used to be. Again, the Republican Party, they were, anti-Soviet 101 in their sentiment during the Cold War. Now it's the Democrats doing that. The new version of the Cold War, the rhetoric that escalates with Russia, sometimes just absolutely needlessly. That's not to say Russia's good with the whole situation in Crimea and you name it, but yeah, they're escalating with them and they continue to escalate with them. That's what Republicans used to do. President Obama with Obamacare, that's an individual mandate system. That used to be a Republican plan. It was originally a Republican plan. Richard Nixon's plan. Bob Dole's plan. The Heritage Foundation, which is a right-wing think tank. Newt Gingrich and Chuck Grassley and well-known Republicans used to support this to oppose single payer, which was the Democrats' plan. You name it, man. There have been so many examples of the Democrats now being what the Republicans used to be, cap and trade, as a plan to deal with climate change. Well, it was cap and trade that the Republicans supported to deal with acid rain. So this is where we're at. We're at a situation where there is no more left party, and the Democrats are using old Republican tricks to try to get their center-right candidate elected.